chrono nomad, the lost city of Ethelis. The year was 3127, and Dr. Elias Voss had seen more centuries than any human should. With his pocket-sized chrono gauntlet, he could slip through time like a ghost in the wind. But this time, he wasn't just exploring, he was on a mission. Legend spoke of Ethelis, a lost city that existed outside of time. Some said it was a utopia of infinite knowledge. Others claimed it was a prison for those who tampered with the fabric of history. Elias had to find out for himself, setting the coordinates to 583 BCE deep in the heart of the Mediterranean. He pressed the activation switch. In a flash of blue light, he was gone. When the dizziness subsided, he found himself in a grand metropolis taller than Rome. Older than Babylon, but shimmering with technology that should not exist. Marble buildings floated above the streets, and energy bridges connected soaring towers. The air was thick with the hum of machines and the chatter of people in a language he barely recognized. Before he could marvel too long, a voice boomed behind him. "You do not belong here, traveler." Elias spun around to see a group of robed figures, their eyes glowing silver. The Sentinels of Ethelis. He had read about them in fragmented texts from the 29th century. They were the keepers of time, the ones who ensured history flowed as it should. "Just here to learn," Elias said, raising his hands. One of the Sentinels stepped forward. "Then you have already broken the first law." Before Elias could react, the air around him crackled. His chrono gauntlet sparked wildly. Something was interfering with its function. He was trapped. The Sentinels closed in, but just before they could seize him, a hooded figure grabbed Elias's arm and whispered, "If you want to live, follow me." With no other choice, he ran. Little did he know, this was only the beginning. "Want me to expand on this or add something specific?" "You said expand, two halves," Jack said. Chrono nomad. The lost city of Ethelis expanded. Elias sprinted through the glowing streets of Ethelis, his heart pounding. The hooded figure led him through narrow alleyways and into a darkened corridor. Beneath a floating bridge, strange glyphs posed on the walls, their glow flickering as though alive. The Sentinels' voices echoed behind them. "Find the intruder. He cannot be allowed to escape." Elias turned to his mysterious savior, a woman with piercing green eyes and a cybernetic implant on her temple. She pulled back her hood, revealing short, silver hair that shimmered in the dim light. "Who are you?" Elias asked, catching his breath. She smirked. "A friend. For now, call me Lyra." Lyra glanced at his chrono gauntlet, still sparking with erratic energy. "Your device won't work here. Ethelis exists in a paradox, a fixed point outside time. Nothing enters, nothing leaves. At least, not without help." Elias frowned. "So how did I get here?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "Because you were meant to." Before Elias could press for more answers, a deep rumbling shook the ground. Lyra's expression hardened. "They've activated the Time Wardens. We need to move." She led him deeper underground, weaving through corridors lined with statues of long-forgotten figures, historians, scientists, warriors. Elias felt as if their stone eyes were watching him. "Listen," Lyra said as they moved, "Ethelis is more than a lost city. It's a failsafe, built by the first-time travelers to protect history from those who would exploit it. The Sentinels enforce the rules, but the real power lies in the core, the heart of Ethelis." "The core?" Elias asked. Lyra nodded. "A living archive of time itself. It records everything, every event, every possibility. If someone were to control it," she didn't need to finish the sentence. Elias took a deep breath. "And let me guess, you want me to help you steal it?" Lyra grinned. "Not steal. Rewrite." Another explosion rocked the tunnels. The Sentinels were closing in. Elias had spent years jumping through history, but this was something new, something dangerous. And yet, a part of him had always wondered, what if history could be changed? What if he could rewrite the past? And more importantly, what if someone else already had? "To be continued. Want me to keep going or tweak anything?" "You said keep going," CHATGPT said. Chrono Nomad, the lost city of Ethelis, Part 2. Elias barely had time to process what Lyra had said before another explosion shook the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling. The Sentinels were relentless. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We need to move. Now." They sprinted through the underground corridors, winding through a labyrinth of forgotten chambers. The walls pulsed with energy, ancient scripts flickering across their surface as if the very foundation of Ethelis was alive. Finally, they reached a large iron door. Lyra placed her hand on a glowing panel beside it, and the metal groaned as it slid open. Inside was a chamber unlike anything Elias had seen before. The core of Ethelis, suspended in the center of the massive room, was a swirling sphere of light and shadow, shifting between colors and textures as if it contained all of time itself. Banks of floating cliffs rotated around it, whispering in an unknown language. Elias's breath caught in his throat. "This is the heart of time," Lyra finished. "Everything that was, is, and could be locked inside this construct." Elias stepped closer, the energy in the air tingling against his skin. "And you think we can rewrite it?" Lyra exhaled sharply. "It's been done before. That's why history is broken." Elias turned to her. "What do you mean?" Lyra hesitated. "Something or someone has already changed history. Subtly, carefully. But if you know what to look for, you can see the fractures." Elias frowned. He had always suspected that history wasn't as fixed as people believed. He had seen discrepancies, anomalies, events that didn't align with recorded accounts. "If we can access the core," Lyra continued, "we can find the original timeline the way history was meant to be." Elias glanced back at the swirling mass of time. The temptation was undeniable, but something still didn't add up. "Why me?" he asked. "Out of all the time travelers in history, why am I here?" Lyra's green eyes darkened. "Because you're part of the fracture." Elias's heart skipped a beat. "What?" Before she could answer, the chamber door exploded inward. The sentinels had found them. A towering figure stepped through the smoke, an 8-foot-tall being encased in obsidian armor, its eyes burning like dying stars. "A time warden, unauthorized access detected," the warden's voice rumbled, reverberating through the chamber. "History will not be rewritten." Lyra cursed under her breath. "We're out of time." Elias had faced danger before. He had outrun Mongol warlords, escaped interstellar bounty hunters, even tricked an artificial intelligence that controlled an entire century. But this was different. This wasn't just about survival. This was about fate itself. And for the first time in his life, Elias wasn't sure if he was on the right side. To be continued. This is shaping up into something epic. "Want me to keep going? Or do you have any twists in mind?" "You said, keep going," Jack said. "Chrono, nomad, the lost city of Ethelis, Part 3. The time warden took a step forward and the temperature in the room dropped. The swirling core of Ethelis pulsed wildly, reacting to the presence of the enforcer. "Step away from the core," the warden commanded, its voice a seismic tremor through the chamber. "History is inviolate." Elias tensed. His chrono gauntlet was still glitching, useless against whatever time lock this city existed in. That meant no easy escape. Lyra, however, had other plans. She pulled a sleek, silver device from her belt and flicked a switch. A crackling pulse of energy rippled outward, disrupting the floating cliffs around the core. The sphere shuddered, its surface flickering between moments in time medieval castles, futuristic skylines, alien landscapes, all flashing for a fraction of a second before dissolving into chaos. The warden's eyes flared. Temporal corruption detected. Initiating purge. The ground beneath them split, and tendrils of dark energy lashed out, warping the air itself. Elias barely dodged a strike as a tendril slashed through the space where he had been standing. Except it didn't just cut through the floor. It erased it. "Lyra," Elias shouted. "If you have a plan, now's the time." She tossed him a small, glowing crystal. "Plug that into your gauntlet. It should stabilize it." Elias didn't hesitate. He jammed the crystal into a slot on his device. Instantly, his gauntlet hummed back to life, its interface glowing with new data. He flexed his fingers, feeling time realign around him. The warden lunged. Elias reacted on instinct. He twisted the dial on his gauntlet and blinked a split-second jump through time. He reappeared behind the warden as its tendrils struck empty air where he had just been. Lyra grinned. Not bad. But the warden was unfazed. It turned its massive head, its eyes locking onto Elias with cold certainty. "You cannot outrun time." With a roar, it slammed its fists into the ground. The entire chamber shook. The core surged with unstable energy, and for a brief moment, Elias saw something strange, a vision rippling through time. A city in ruins, a timeline collapsing, and in the middle of it all, himself. Elias staggered back. What the hell was that? Lyra's expression turned grim. A glimpse of what's coming. The warden raised its arms for another attack. Elias, Lyra shouted. We need to overwrite the core now. Elias hesitated. The core contained all of history. If they altered it, they could fix the timeline, or they could destroy everything. But something had already changed history before. If he did nothing, that corruption would spread. He took a deep breath and reached for the core. The moment his fingers touched it, reality shattered. To be continued.